My name is Watson.
And my name is Mariah.
We're 12 years old.
And we're representing Old Redford Academy Middle School.
And we're here to talk about drugs.
Drugs are very dangerous and unhealthy.
And they can also ruin a relationship with your loved ones. Go talk to a family member, a friend, even a teacher, or you can go to a therapist, or if you need any extra help, you can go online and find all of those.
Hashtag not worth it.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Expose Under the Sun, sponsored by the Detroit Native Sun newspaper. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we are live with you in the awesome city of Highland Park, Michigan, under the auspices of the Honorable Mayor Hubert Yap, as well as you can also view us in the phenomenal city of Detroit, Michigan, under the auspices of the Honorable Mayor Mike Duggan. But just before we get started with my special guest today, it's been kind of an interesting week. I just got back from Georgia, and we were down in Georgia, myself and 8 other people, and we were down there to let people know in the state of Georgia that there is a special runoff election that's going on today as we speak, and that's for the senator that will be representing the residents in the state of Georgia, and the 2 candidates that are vying for your support down in Georgia are the current incumbent, whose name is Raphael Warnock, and he is being challenged by the Georgia Bulldog for the University of Georgia football team, and that person is Herschel Walker. And the thing is that Reverend Warnock, who's the current incumbent, has been in office for the last couple of years, and he represents the Democratic viewpoint, whereas Herschel Walker represents the Republican viewpoint. But there's a special election that's going on today, and there were a lot of people that are going to the polls to vote today. So we're encouraging the residents that may still have to vote in this election today to be peaceful, to be mindful that people need to get an opportunity to go and voice their choices. So regardless of how their choice may be determined, that we should still understand that this is something that's in divine order right now. And, whatever happens, whoever wins, we should be able to, as human beings that love one another, to be able to go and be peaceful, be understanding, and be knowledgeable when it comes down to the reasons why someone may have gotten the support over the other person that was trying to get the same support. When I was down there, we were down there through Detroit Downriver APRI to encourage people not to vote for a particular candidate, but to make certain that they vote if they haven't voted already. So we didn't encounter anything that was any amiss while we were there, and we were there for about 5 days. So the thing is that we want to make certain too that there's people that are going to vote, but they knew that there was a date today that they were going to also have to vote. A lot of people have voted early. There was some issues because some of the polling precincts reporting that they had taken some of the drop boxes out of some of the polling precincts in the major cities in the state of Georgia and put them outside those major cities. So what it resulted in was that a lot of people that were voting in some of the major cities in Georgia, there was a long time for them to wait in line to vote compared to out in the suburban areas that had a shorter time. I think most of those precincts out there were only reporting roughly, the lines were probably no more than about 10 minutes long versus like 30 to 60 minutes long in some of the major cities in various cities like in Albany, in Atlanta, in Macon, Montgomery. So we're just hoping and praying that, like I said, that everything is peaceful today, and we hope that people are understanding the result and will work with whoever the senator becomes, because everybody understands the importance of how the electoral process goes. So the other thing is that I was just attending a homegoing service for a beautiful woman. Her name was Ruth Willa Lloyd Harlan. And our thoughts, our prayers, our sympathies are extended to her loved ones and her family. Listening to a lot of the testimony that was given about her today brought many a person in the services with tears in their eyes, because those that even may have only been acquainted with her for a short period of time got an opportunity to understand how much she was well loved and well liked. And just listening to some of the anecdotes and the testimonies of her children, her grandchildren, and other people, you really got well acquainted, with her. And it was a transition was really sudden, so it took a lot of people, by surprise. So again, our thoughts, our prayers, our sympathies are extended to the Harlan family, as well. The other thing that I just want to talk about too is that we're really in the midst of a lot, it seems like, in the city of Detroit. A lot of gun violence, a lot of violence towards each other. And I know there are a lot of people that are looking to try and help people to heal some of the issues that are going on within the community. People are not resolving issues the same way that they did years past, or the same way that their mothers or fathers or grandparents or uncles and great uncles and aunts, resolved issues. And then the other thing is that we've got, the guns seem to be very, very prevalent. It seems like it's so easy now to find a gun, to pick up a gun, and to have that gun be discharged. And the sad part about it is that, as people know, a lot of times those guns wound, but they also take the lives of individuals that get in the way of the bullets that are discharged from the guns. And sadly enough, some of the people that are in the way of these bullets are innocent bystanders. And when I say innocent bystanders, some of them are children. And it's sad when you see a life so young taken from us. It's hard to heal from something like that. And we ask a lot of the families, if you know you have a gun in your home, you need to make certain that that gun is not available for a child to get a hold of it, or for someone else that doesn't have the permit to be able to go and carry a gun, or to be able to utilize a gun, or doesn't even know how to discharge or utilize a gun safely, those individuals do not need to have access to that gun or to that weapon. And the other weapon that a lot of people now are also losing their lives from are these weapons that have four wheels on them. And there are a lot of people that, sadly enough, are losing their lives based on being, one, someone as a passenger in a vehicle that's traveling at a high rate of speed, or someone who may be trying to cross the street and in the way of a vehicle that's traveling at a high rate of speed, and or someone who's in another vehicle that comes in contact with that vehicle that's traveling at a high rate of speed. So we need to sit down and really start thinking about the rules, the laws that govern our driving on the roads in Detroit and other roads throughout the state and throughout the country. People need to realize too that these laws, these rules that govern your speed are for a reason. And if it says 25 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour or 35 miles an hour, especially in an area where you may have children that could be at play, you have children and young people that may be in school, that these high rates of speed from some of these vehicles it's not called for. You're going to impress anybody by driving 20 or 30 miles over the speed limit. And you're putting yourself at risk, you're putting others in your vehicle at risk, and you're putting others that may come in contact with you at risk. I don't like turning on the news and seeing a car that flipped over on the highway or a car that's going the wrong way on one of our expressways. That's disaster. And that's really a recipe for danger. And we need to make certain that some of these individuals that may be driving at some of these inordinate speeds, that if they do get apprehended by the police, some of their driving privileges may need to be restricted from them. Because we don't want to have somebody, especially in terms of, say, a young person that may be crossing the street. And sometimes young people don't look before they walk across their street. So they get right there in the middle of the intersection and you got somebody speeding down the street that doesn't have the time and the response or the reaction time to brake or to swerve out the way of that person. And the next thing you know, here you've got people that are grieving over the loss of a young one or an adult, for that fact. It could be somebody who may be with a wheelchair trying to get across the street or a walker. So again, I'm asking everybody, slow down, make it home safely. Let's have a great holiday season. Let's also have a very, very rewarding and prosperous and safe new year as well. Okay. So we've got all those things in order. We want to make certain that the residents in Georgia that haven't voted, vote. We want to make certain that people realize too that there are guns out here that are not to be used for conflict resolution or any other weapons, knives, anything else. Let's talk these things through as opposed to resolving an issue and then thinking back on it, then you regret that you went and took matters into your own hand. We have a special guest on the show with us today, and that's one of the things that I'm sure during a lot of her services that she provides at her church, that she lets a lot of young people know and lets a lot of people in her audience to realize there's healing. If you do have a rift, you do have a problem with anybody that's in your household or at your workplace or just anywhere, that you need to really sit down and talk things through. And I've known her, at least the last 10 years. When I first met her, she was a math teacher at a school called Sampson Weber on the west side of Detroit. And everybody, it was interesting that when they would talk about my special guest, her name is Dr. Savina Taylor, when they would talk about her, it was like, oh, look at that lady. She is so sharp. She's so elegant. But you don't cross her. You know, you always make sure you respect her, or she'll get with you. And I think that's one of the things that might be missing when it comes down to not just teachers, but also parents, you know, that we need to have folks that will kind of realize too that is a lot of people affectionately call her Big Mama or my dear or whatever that somebody may want to call somebody that lives, you know, on the block from them or somebody else in the household. You got to respect your elders, but then at the same time too, elders, you have to garner the respect from your children and the young people that may be in your household as well. So when I met Dr. Taylor, you know, it was so interesting because I didn't think that she would have evolved into the prominent motivational speaker, pastor, inspirational leader that she is today. And it just goes to tell you too that when you never know what your calling may be. Initially, it might be education, it might be delivering the word, but as Dr. Taylor says, when she's in her mode in her church, she is not just preaching, but she's also teaching. Dr. Savina Taylor, welcome to our show today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Darwin. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to be on this show with you. And as Darwin was saying, my name is Dr. Savina Lachelle Taylor, and I am the pastor of Unity Mission Church. We are located at 1335 Oakman Boulevard, Detroit, Michigan, 48238. And prior to becoming a pastor, as he was saying, I was a school teacher. We met at Sampson Weber Academy. Actually, it was a lot longer than 10 years ago. It was more like 20
Has it
years.
been that long?
It's been that long.
Wow.
It's been that long, yes. How time flies. I was always one of those teachers, like you said, I was a very strict teacher, a very great teacher. By the way, and not to brag, but I was nominated as Teacher of the Year, and also I was inducted into Who's Who among America's top teachers.
Congratulations.
And thank you very much. And those titles did not come very lightly. I worked really hard for it. I was able to do things with the children academically that a lot of teachers were not able to do as far as bringing up their test scores. And I spent a lot of time with them. A lot of times I would work with them on my lunch hour, my prep hour, after school. I was one of those type of teachers. I did what I had to do to help my students to accelerate. And a lot of them, as a matter of fact, they come to my church.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they do. They still remember 20 years ago, the Miss Taylor that, oh, you know what? I must share this testimony. This young lady named Carla, unfortunately, Carla made a transition to be with the Lord. But when she first came to Unity Mission Church, the first thing she said to me was, Miss Taylor, I remember the time you used to take us to McDonald's. You know, children will remember the good things that you do for them. They remember and they know when a teacher really love them and when they're just there for the paycheck. And those students knew that I was one of those teachers who really cared and loved them. I was one of those who went beyond the call of duty to make sure that they had, because a lot of their parents were not able to do some of the things for them. And I just thank God that I was fortunate enough to do some of those things for the students. Being a teacher for 30 plus years, I retired in November of 2019, and I realize now why God made me a teacher for 30 plus years, because he was preparing me for my true calling in life. And that calling is to be a teacher and a preacher of the Word of God, the true gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's what I do every Sunday without fail. It doesn't matter what's going on. I'm going to preach and teach the Word of God, because this is the calling that God put on my life. And as I always say, we were all predestined with a God-given calling. And I exhort everybody today to, find out what your God-given calling is, because we all have one. Even before we were formed in our mom's womb, God had given us all a calling. So as I said before, I exhort everybody to just pray and ask God to show you what your calling is. Because it's not until you start exercising that gift, that calling that God gave you, that you experience true happiness. Not the happiness that the world gives, but the happiness that God gives us, that everlasting happiness and peace and joy. And that's something that the world is missing, because we're not giving God what God wants us to give. We're not giving back to the world the way God wants us to. We're not exercising, a lot of people are not exercising the gift that God has given them. And because of that, the world is in the shape that it's in. We are in perilous times, and people are turning their backs on God. They have gotten comfortable staying at home. With the onset of the pandemic, we were ordered to shut down the churches and everything else. But as soon as we were given the executive order to open back up, Unity Mission Church opened back up June 14th of 2020, and we have not stopped yet, because I feel that we're on a mission. I'm on a mission to try and bring as many people to God as I possibly can, because I realize that's one of the reasons why the world is in the shape that it's in. People have turned their hearts from God. We no longer have prayer and Bibles in the schools. They've been shut out of not only the schools, but out of the government, out of the homes, out of the hearts of people. And my message for everybody today is, it's time for all of us to turn our hearts back to God, so he can he's never left us or turned his heart from us, but it's the people. We've turned our hearts from God. So if we want the conditions of the world to get a little bit better, we have to turn our hearts back to him.
So now, in the few minutes that we have left, what do you propose, or what would you think, Dr. Taylor, that could be done, especially for our young people that may be hurting, that need to be in a church home, need to go back to church, because they're not getting it, like you said, in the schools. They've taken God out of the school system. Now the only place that they can see it at would be going to service, either on a Sunday or whatever day during the week, Wednesday or, but what do we need to do?
Well, we need to allow the children to come back into the church and let them take an active role in the church. When I was a school teacher, of course, I would ask the students, how many of you go to church? And a lot of their responses would be, oh, Miss Taylor, we don't go to church. Church is boring. All they do is just let us sit there and we do absolutely nothing. So with that being said, at Unity Mission Church, we allow the young people to exercise their gifts before the presence of the Most High God, because we realize that all of the children are gifted and talented in some way, form, or fashion. We have a children's choir, we have a young adult choir, we have a brass gospel band where we have live musicians who play music, we have a praise dance group, we have a steppers team. Whatever the children want to do, their interests. We allow them to do it at Unity Mission Church because, as I said, we believe that all the children are gifted and talented, and they're going to exercise their gifts somewhere. So why not allow them to exercise their gifts before the presence of the Most High God? I mean, if young ladies like to dance, they're going to dance somewhere. And I would rather see them dancing for the Lord instead of dancing, sliding up and down some pole somewhere. And forgive me for saying that, but that's what they do. So we allow them to exercise their gifts. The young men, we have musicians there. They play instruments to the glory and honor of God. And we allow the children to be a part of the service. And they love it. And we have a large array of children there at the church. And we invite all of the children, whoever wants to come to Unity Mission Church. We don't turn any of the children down because we realize that they're all gifted and talented, and we'll allow them to do something to keep their interests before the presence of God.
Well, and that's so interesting. We're about to wrap up, but it's like so interesting because it used to be a time when the parents would have to go and bring their children to church. Now it's like the children should be reaching out and trying to bring their parents to church. So you, at your church, you give the children an opportunity to say, come on, it's Sunday. Come on, I'm getting ready, as opposed to the mom or the dad telling the child, all right, we got to go to church. Get ready. Go take a shower, your bath, and do all the other little things to get ready for church. Whereas now the children, at your church, you're probably telling the parents,
exactly,
get up, it's time, get ready for service. So come on, I got to sing, I got to, do a praise dance or play in a band or, something. So that's the important part.
Yes.
But Dr. Taylor, give your information again, where you're located at and the hours that you're at church at.
Once again, my name is Dr. Savina Lachelle Taylor, and I am the pastor of Unity Mission Church. The address is 1335 Oakman Boulevard, and that's in Detroit, Michigan, 48238. We're actually located right across from Focus Hope, and our service begins at 12 noon on Sundays. So if you're interested in a church home, we cordially invite you, your children, your entire family to Unity Mission Church, 1335 Oakman Boulevard, and that's in Detroit, right across from Focus Hope.
Sounds great. All right. Well, again, I do want to thank you, Dr. Taylor, for coming on the show with me today.
You're welcome.
And we definitely hope that you will come back again.
Oh, absolutely.
And you have been watching Expose Under the Sun, sponsored by the Detroit Native Sun newspaper. And if you'd like to pick up a copy of the Detroit Native Sun newspaper, you can contact Miss Valerie Lockhart. She is the publisher and executive editor of the newspaper, and you can reach her if you would like to advertise at area code 313-457-5944. Again, that's 313-457-5944. And again, I do want to go and ask everyone to make certain, settle your differences without guns. Words can also harm, and sometimes words can last a lot longer than what a physical act would be. But the bottom line is that sometimes from these physical acts, you have wounds that never heal.
That's true.
Whereas in the case with words, you might think about them, but it's better to go and have an opportunity to go and forgive somebody that may have said something that was of some kind of discourse to you, and then you can explain to them, I apologize, I'm sorry for what I said. But when it comes down to a weapon of choice, that's a little bit different, because every time that they look at that wound, they're reminded about a knife wound or a bullet wound. So again, please settle your differences a whole lot more amicable than we have been doing in the past. And these folks out here with this road rage, same thing. You don't want to sit up here just because somebody cut in front of you, just because somebody cut across you. That's not the way to resolve the issue too.
That's true.
Just pray that you didn't get hurt, and pray that that person will not do that again, because the next time that they do it, the result might not end the same way. Everyone, have a great rest of this afternoon. Be at peace. Enjoy some of this nice weather. It's kind of uncommon for us to have a December 6th and we not see any snow on the ground.
That's true.
And we not see a lot of cold, frigid temperatures, as well. And I do want to say too, happy Founders Day to my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha. And we want to make certain too that all of the fraternities and sororities are going to go and be able to go and help with all the givings aways for Christmas. There's going to be a lot of turkey giveaways. There's going to be a lot of toy giveaways. There's going to be a lot of other food items that a lot of the churches and a lot of the sororities and fraternities are going to be doing, and a lot of the organizations. So again, there shouldn't be a reason why someone should not have a good meal in their stomachs on Christmas Day. Again, have a very, very nice Christmas holiday season, and have a very, very pleasant and peaceful New Year. Have a great afternoon.